really want to focus on, really want to focus on Facebook, using it for your agency, coming up with a game plan, because I think things have really swung in the last 12 to 16 months with Facebook. And I'll kind of mention two things, but one, I was looking at a really good article in the Wall Street Journal that said something like 82% of all small businesses in the United States either use Facebook or are kind of like attempting to use Facebook in 2014. I mean, that's pretty substantial numbers. I think back to probably 2008, when we really started pushing, the usage of this for your agency, and it was something like 37% of businesses were using Facebook, and people they used to almost scoff at me and say, no, we don't use Facebook, we need to use LinkedIn. And I remember even back in 2008 saying, look, regardless if you like one or the other, it's irrelevant. What is relevant is the percentages, and I think moving forward it always makes sense to use both. That's going to be the safe play. So anyway, I just kind of want to start off with a quick story, and then we'll go through some of the fundamentals I think that you need to have in place to be successful with this tool. And that'll lead us to next week when we really talk about distribution growth and how to get more of your clients to be following you and that type of strategy. But I guess it was about 3 months ago, and one of the states, and I'm going to kind of leave it nameless, but one of the states had me come speak at their local PIA convention. And basically they said, look, we would like you to make a presentation to all of our agents with the mindset that these agents hate Facebook and they don't want to use it. So you need to convince them to use it. And I kind of sat there, with that was kind of like the pep talk. And I kind of sat there chuckling, thinking, if you have to be convinced to market your agency, and you have to be convinced to offer some value to your clients, and you have to be convinced to increase retention, you're not going to make it too long, at least not anymore. Obviously things have changed. So my point is this. The thing I kind of started off talking about during the convention is I said, look, here's the deal with Facebook. I'm a historian of marketing. So let's think back over the last 50 years in the insurance industry. Probably back in the 60s, maybe even the 70s, there were door-to-door insurance salesmen, right? You went door-to-door, you knocked on the door, and the thing that was, the difference between a really good salesman and the really bad salesman was they had strategy to get inside that house. Once they got inside the house, they knew what the percentage was of closes they were going to make. Okay, so it was kind of like, how do I get in the house? And then obviously as time went on, cold calling started to become a little bit more prevalent. It was more efficient. You could call more people than doors you could knock on. And obviously in the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, cold calling, and even probably the 90s, very, very important in the insurance industry. How many of you guys probably booked people to make calls and all that kind of stuff? But, as time went on, it got saturated, right? Too many people calling, the no-call list came into play. And, I think back to now, I think back to last year, my grandmother, who actually just passed away. But anyways, she's 95 years old, she lived through. But she came from a different generation, a very prim and proper generation, well, at least in her mind. And I still remember, it was probably about 5 years ago, I was sitting at her house, and someone called. She listened for about 1 second, and then boom, slammed down the phone. And I said, well, who was it? And she just said, cold caller. And my point is this. She had become conditioned that it was perfectly acceptable in society to slam that phone down on a cold caller. They're a cold caller. I can hang up on them. My point is my grandmother was very prim and proper. She tried to kind of follow the rules of society to a T. So my point, guys, is that that was kind of the death of cold calling, where it became acceptable to kind of hang up on people. And in the end, you were deemed a solicitor, not somebody who was offering a potentially good product. Then we kind of moved, and in the midst there was kind of mailers, right? Who remembers sending out, and maybe you still do it, but sending out big-time mailers to people. hopefully they call up, hopefully they go to a place, a landing page, something to that extent. You're getting conversions. And obviously as time has gone on, the success percentage is way down. I mean, I remember doing big mailers back in the late 90s and hoping we were going to get between 3 and 5% conversion. Maybe it was even 3 and 10%. Now I'm hearing numbers of like, 0.3%. And my point is that people now get so many pieces of mail, they don't pay attention to it like they used to do. Then in the early 2000s, we moved to email marketing. And obviously the really good agencies, they went paperless. They got rid of all the filing cabinets. They created a database. They did drip email marketing. They had newsletters. And again, the reason I'm going through all this, guys, is it all correlates to social media. And it all kind of correlates to the same 2 key components that every insurance agency needs to have: generating referrals and keeping retention high. And I'm sure any of you guys that were successful with the, knocking on doors, cold calling, mailers, email marketing, all that stuff was done for 2 reasons. 1, to stay in front of people, and 2, to keep retention up. So as we moved into kind of 2008, the business side of social media started to develop. And I guess my point is it's exactly the same as all the other things. And, I have, at this point, we almost have over 1,000 clients. I have people that are 22 and just starting out in the industry. I have a guy who's 86 years old. He's up in Alaska, and he's still selling life and health insurance. And he had literally no computer skills whatsoever about 10 years ago. He's very avid with social media. But my point is he was against it too. And it wasn't until, the light bulb went off that, wait a minute, social media is just the same as email marketing. Oh my gosh, it's the same as cold calling. It's all the same thing. It's just what it has evolved to. Once the light bulb goes off and you start to understand that, then it makes it a lot easier to use social media, and you start to come up with a game plan. Because I think the biggest problem is everybody correlates social media to the real chit-chat, gossip aspect of it. When in reality, if you're a true entrepreneur, you look at it as, look, a lot of people go onto social media, specifically Facebook. They're on there all the time. They're addicted to it to some extent. And as a salesman, this is my opportunity to get in front of people, to plant seeds in people's minds that I'm the guru, so that when they come up for open enrollment, they get a new car, they get a new house, and they're gossiping about all that, hopefully they're getting referred to my business page and then getting referred to my website so I can turn them into a referral. And at the bare minimum, I can use social media as a way to keep in front of my clients, because email marketing isn't working like it used to. I mean, I think, guys, the statistics right now are, if you send out a newsletter to 1,000 people, you're lucky to get 30% of the people opening it and 15% of the people reading it. Whereas on social media, you're looking at more 70 and 80% conversion ratios. So, I mean, that's the real advantage to utilizing it. So I came up with a few key notes here. And, I've had this page in front of you guys for a few minutes here. So here's really the keys to success. Here's an example of an agency we're helping. These guys, Cheney Insurance, what we're looking at for them is their Facebook business page, okay? And the most important thing to look at is right here. And it's this number. You will see that they have 1,204 likes. What that means is that's their distribution channel. So when they're posting, it's going out to their 1,204 likes. And obviously the goal is to get as many likes as possible. So how do you get a like? Well, somebody's got to come to your page and they got to click this like button. It's just like email marketing. It's like an opt-in. Once they click on that, then they receive all your posts. So, people always ask me, what are the keys to success? Step one is very simple. Get your social media presence out to your clients, whether it's via an email, whether it's a piece of mail, whether it's your staff telling these people. That is the most important part of the success strategy. Tell your clients about the social media presence. Make sure, though, that when you're telling them, that you're actually being consistent and you're posting. One of the biggest problems I see is people go, yeah, I told all my clients about it and we didn't get any likes. And then I'll go to their page and they haven't posted in 6 months. You have to understand, guys, that social media is becoming mature. People say, well, what does mature mean? It means that a lot of people are using it. And people aren't stupid. They want to see value. They want to get something. So the first thing you got to make sure you're doing is consistently posting the content. The content is actually the value. The content is actually the creativeness. And it's something that's planting the seeds in these people's minds. So when you go start to market your social media presence, man, you better make sure that there's some sort of value on there or something that these people see and go, oh, yeah, this looks pretty good. I'm going to like it and become a fan. So that's a kind of a common problem. So once you understand that, obviously, A, you want to market it out to your clients. And the reason you want to market it out to your clients is because there's a thing called the viral impact. People say, what does the viral impact mean? What that means is when you post, I told you, it goes out to all your fans. But when people start to what's called interact with your post can go out to more people. So here's an example of a post. Let me see if I can kind of highlight it here. There's just one post. And obviously it went out to all their fans. But what happened? You can see down here, and let me kind of clear this out and try to give you a better angle. You can see down here, this is kind of where the viral stuff starts taking place. So right here specifically, you can see that 5 people liked this post. So what that means is when somebody comes, when someone gets your post and they click the like button, then that post goes out to all of that person's friends. So you can actually increase your distribution and have your post go out to people that you're not fans, that are not fans of your page. So my point is it can get your distribution can increase very quickly. So people then start to say, well, wait a minute, what should I be posting? What's going to get me the viral? One thing I can tell you is that's not going to get you the viral is soliciting. If you start to go on there and say, hey, I can save you money on insurance, or, you know, we're the cheapest game in town, in the end, people are going to tune you out. Because just like my grandmother, in her mind, a solicitor is someone she doesn't have to pay attention to. So you got to be very careful about soliciting. But my point is being creative and having, you know, really nice little pictures and stuff like this, like these guys have, man, it can go a long way. I mean, this post got 3 likes, it got 2 comments, and 1 share. It probably went out to an extra 4,000 people. And, you know, all they did was post a custom graphic that said, don't forget to turn your clock back. It had nothing to do with insurance. And that's the thing that kind of starts to flip people out, because I guess my point is there's a lot of creativity in social media. It's not a simple it's not a simple formula for success. So you have to kind of understand that and start to understand that, man, if I want to get my message out to people and become viral and get in front of my clients, friends, and family, you know, I'm going to have to really think about what I'm posting and be creative sometimes. In the end, you know, you want to really keep things simple. You want to be consistent. And obviously, you want to try to get that retention and referrals in place. So, listen, guys, my voice is going. Next week, we're going to talk more about growing the page, how to get more fans, that type of strategy. I'm going to put this one on YouTube, and we'll go from there. Thanks again, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.